Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to a new week, Monday morning. I hope you've had a fantastic weekend. We're looking at different giants that David confronted during the course of his life. I want to deal with the last of the giants today. His name is Ishbi-Benob. Interesting name, and you'll find it in the book of 2 Samuel, chapter 21. Let me read to you the account and the build-up to his name. This is from verse 15. Once again, there was a battle between the Philistines and Israel. David went down with his men to fight against the Philistines, and he became exhausted. And Ishbi-Benob, one of the descendants of Rapha, that's of Goliath, whose bronze spearhead weighed 300 shekels, and who was armed with a new sword, said he would kill David. But Abishai, son of Zeruiah, came to David's rescue. He struck the Philistine down, and he killed him. Great story. What a heroic man Abishai was. He saw David at his moment of need. He saw David exhausted, somewhat down, maybe as a result of all the stuff that he had been through. And he stepped in and he said, David, leave this one to me. I'll handle him. And indeed he did. But the name Ishbi-Benob is an interesting name. It means son of discouragement. I wonder if you've ever been discouraged. I wonder if there have ever been circumstances that have led you to think, man, there's not a lot of hope going on around here. I just seem to go from being beaten one round to get up and get knocked down again and get up and get knocked down again. Well, I'm going to tell you, people, out there in our community and around the KwaZulu-Natal coast, we've experienced a whole bunch of that. A couple of weeks ago, we had floods. They devastated many homes, many areas, left a lot of heartache behind them. And the last couple of weeks, the country has been doing the best it can, I guess, to try and restore the area to its workable self. Well, you won't believe it. This last weekend, we had another flood. And we had 2 days of hectic rain. And all the good that was undone, or was done, has now been undone. And we start again in an even worse situation than we were before. And I look at the people around you, and I kind of see how they must identify with David at the point of discouragement and disappointment. That, man, we tried so hard to get the pieces back together again, but here we are again, back flat on the canvas, about to go under for the count of 10. Now, when we look at this in the context of Scripture, we see how God says, I understand your discouragement, I understand your disappointment. Let's talk about this giant this week. While we pick up the pieces of our disappointment and discouragement, let's talk about this giant. Disappointment is something that is natural, I guess, to all of us. It revolves around expectations. If you have no expectations, you're never going to be disappointed. If we have no expectations, there's no way that failure can be a possibility. And I look at this in a Christian life, and with great reverence, I say, you know what? I have great expectations in God. I have great anticipation of what God is able to do. And there have been many times when I've preached sermons about faith and prayed prayers of faith. And I've got to tell you, God hasn't always come through. And I look at this and I say, Lord, where were you? Why haven't you come through? I've preached all the sermons of faith. I prayed the prayers of faith. And yet, God, I'm disappointed. And I say that with great reverence and stand in awe of Him. But I have prayed for businessmen at this time, and the business got worse. I prayed for marriages, and people get divorced. I prayed for a kid, who came and said he didn't want his mom and dad to get divorced. And I prayed with this child, and we believed God together that God was going to do something, and He didn't. And they got divorced. Prayed for people in death, dying of cancer and other things. And man, I really expected God to do something, but he didn't. And or He didn't at the time in His way that I expected Him to do it. And so disappointment is not just something that non-believers experience or human beings experience. It has an even deeper meaning for us as believers today, where we've believed God for something and it hasn't happened, and we are deeply disappointed. Disappointment with God is not heretical. It's in the Bible all the time. Just think of the disciples when they tried to cast out those demons from that young boy who threw himself in the fire, and they couldn't do it. They just couldn't pull it off. and the kid continued to behave badly. The people began to laugh at them, and they were disappointed with God until Jesus arrived. Anyway, disappointment is the deal. And so when we think of this, I want to share with you a concept that is fundamental to our faith. And I find it so beautifully in the book of Ephesians, chapter 1, where it talks in an incredible way about the mystery of God. It talks about God's ways being mysterious to us. It talks about God's ways not being our ways. It talks about the fact that God is a mystery, and yet he still has his will. His will for many of us is indeed a mystery. Why God allows certain things to happen, I'm not sure, but I don't have to be sure, because I know he is still God. And when disappointment comes and you feel like you've been knocked down and you can't get up again, then just realize that this is a mystery of God. At the end of the day, we know there has to be something positive come out of this thing. And so we keep hope alive, knowing that God has got something good for us if we can sustain for that long. So hold on today, people. Keep praying. Keep your faith alive. Practice your faith talk. Keep strong in the faith that God has given to you, because that faith will eventually have some kind of outcome that maybe you don't even understand right now, because it falls into the category or falls under the covering of the sovereign will of God. We don't understand it. It's not humanly speaking, but one day we surely will. So we're going to talk about that this week, how to manage the discouragement, the questions that discouragement, and ask of God and ask of us. I hope it's going to be beneficial to you. So hang with us. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.